So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe Carty. I'm the chair of the Campus Engage Steering Group, and I'm a computer scientist from UCD. I'm delighted to welcome you to the launch of our new Train the Trainer online program. This is a 6-week program, and it's about how to get your organization embedded in engaged research and innovation practice, and to address societal challenges, these really important challenges that we have facing society today, and working with partners in public policy makers, civic society, patients, industries, NGOs, and various organizations. I think the course is coming really at the right time. There's great political interest in engaged research at the moment, and it promises to be really interesting and a practical guide to this area. So I want to thank everybody who's made it possible to run this program. It's brilliant that we're able to deliver it. Just on the logistics, there are closed captions available for the webinar, and they're available at the bottom of your screen if you wish to avail of those. And the session is also being recorded and will be put up on the IUA website, the Campus Engage website and YouTube channel later on today or early tomorrow. So I'm first of all going to ask, first of all, I want to thank our panelists for agreeing to join us here today. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. So firstly, Kate Morris from the IUA, Head of Campus Engage at IUA. Kate.
That's it, Joe. Kate Morris here, Head of Campus Engage, based in the Irish Universities Association. And just remind people that the Irish Universities Associations, where the 7 presidents of the universities come to discuss strategy across the sector to inform policy practice change. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Kate. Dr. Avril Kennan, CEO of Health Research Charities Ireland. Sorry about the pronunciation there, Avril.
That's okay, Joe. Yeah, you had it right. Avril Kennan, as you said, CEO of Health Research Charities Ireland. So I represent 40 charities that have a very strong focus on health and medical and social care research. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Avril. Gareth Murray, outgoing National Director of Horizon Europe at Enterprise Ireland.
Hey Joe, thanks for introducing me. As I say, I'm Garrett. I lead the National Support Network for Horizon Europe. At least I'm doing for the next 2 weeks, and will be succeeded by Kevin Burke. And we obviously are very interested in supporting all stakeholders within the system to engage and draw down across the Horizon Europe programme. So it's great to be here today for such a great initiative.
Thanks very much, Garrett. And finally, Sarah Bowman, Director of Strategic Engagement Impact Assessment at Trinity College Dublin.
That's right. Thank you very much. And I'm part of the Campus Engaged Research Working Group. So I've enjoyed working with colleagues on the advancement of capacity building efforts through Campus Engage.
Thank you, Sarah. And now I pass over to Kate, who will get the proceedings running.
Thanks, Joe. I'm going to give just a very brief introduction to the why we're all here today. So we're extraordinarily happy and very grateful for people who've logged on today, and we can see there's great appetite out there. About 300, close to 300 people sign up for the launch, who will all receive information on the course in an email post this event. But we have in the audience today members from universities, TUs, ITs, government agencies, departments, civic, civil society, private agencies. So this indicates that there is great appetite out there to build capacity across engaged research and innovation to address our greatest societal challenges. And we know that they are plenty, such as building affordable houses, reducing emissions, getting in line with EU targets for reduced emissions, dementia care in our homes, preventing cancer. The list goes on. So I'm pretty convinced here that many of you too believe that when different disciplines, different types of tacit knowledge, those affected by societal issues, when they work together, we have a greater chance of getting a better return on public investment in Irish research and innovation. We get better public policy written, we get better public policy implemented and buy-in to effective public services, new products for longer term societal impact. So we've been beating this drum pretty consistently now since 2016, and we have been working in close partnerships with our colleagues from across the higher education institutions, Horizon Europe Ireland, Peter and Carey and the Irish Research Council, SFI, HEA, Department of Further Higher Education Research Innovation, PIA, Royal Irish Academy, EPA, the list goes on. And we're trying here to change hearts and minds and cultures across campuses. And we're doing this since Eukarya was in situ in the IRC. So also since Philip Nolan actually launched our report, our original report back in 2017, we have seen change on the ground. We've seen funding agencies particularly put in place criteria for researchers to work with research stakeholders. But we are also aware there's a lot yet to do to bring those on in an authentic and a practical way, those stakeholders, to the research process and project implementation. We've seen great changes in Horizon Europe, which is very encouraging. Garrett's going to speak a little bit on that later. And finally, we're looking forward to the department's new research and innovation strategy, which is due to launch soon. And we are hoping that this will align effectively with our own programme for government, the National Development Plan. We want to see greater interdepartmental commitment to support the Department of Further Higher Ed Research, Innovation and Science's ambition, and specifically in building on the research for public policy agenda and infrastructures. So now, as I say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So while we have that strategy in place, our biggest challenge will be building a cultural shift. So one way we are attempting to do that is to bring together and increase our number of facilitators and trainers to build competency and capacity and confidence, and to showcase the phenomenal work that is already happening, and to tap into that incredible pool of talent from across disciplines and across sectors to build a national community of practice for engaged research and innovation. So again, just to thank our panel members for being here today, to thank our funders, which is the HEA we're working in partnership with on this. So we're going to ask some Q&As later to our panel, but first I'm going to pass you on to Sarah Bowman, who we've all been working closely with, and she's going to go through the ABC on what this training program is all about. So thanks again for everyone for joining, and I'll pass you on now to Sarah.
Lovely. Thanks, Kate. We do have a short video that we were hoping to share. So Kate Wood is going to play that for us first, and then I'll follow on with some details.
So the Dingle Peninsula 2030 project has been a game changer in terms of how research can support the community on the Dingle Peninsula to engage in climate action.
We're passionate about helping our environment and keeping it sustained for as long as we can.
Crime gangs are a real problem for some communities. They groom children to commit serious offences, and then they try and keep them in their clutches. Here at the University of Limerick, we're using science to stop these networks recruiting children for crime.
It has real potential because it is bringing together these four pillars and these various partners who traditionally haven't really worked together.
Our team at NUI Galway focuses on children's health and well-being. Children have the right to be involved in decisions about their lives. We include them in every aspect of our research, from making decisions about the kinds of things we research, right through to policy and practice.
To ensure that we have good water quality in all of our waterways. How do we measure that? With an army of citizen scientists, we can actually get a snapshot of water quality in Ireland for the first time.
We upload the chemical tests and the observation tests on the mobile phone directly within seconds, so we can see a real-time map now of how many volunteers have uploaded and what's the status.
We can actually make an incredible change, and we can be real change makers within Ireland.
Wonderful. So that video really provides you with an example of some of the case studies that we'll be highlighting as part of this 6-week virtual course. And what I'd like to do is to share with you an overview, provide some details around the course and what you can expect if you apply for this opportunity. So first, really want to hit home the key point that we're fundamentally interested in building partnerships to affect systems change. And we've been so fortunate to work with colleagues across sectors and across disciplines to really try to understand what would be the most useful resources and tools to provide in order to advance engaged research for societal impact. And I just want to take a moment to call out a few individuals who've been really supportive of our effort thus far. Within THEA, we have Jennifer Brennan, who's been assisting us within the Irish Universities Association, Lisa Keating, Kate Wood, and Leah O'Sullivan, who have tied us into the beautiful work in the Changemakers series. Within the Irish Research Council, that as Kate said, that relationship has run deep, and Peter Brown and Grania Walsh have been very helpful in terms of developing and will continue to assist in developing course materials through project advisory group roles. We're very fortunate to have Garrett Murray and Kevin Burke joining us from Enterprise Ireland, and they're ensuring that we're tied into guidance around Horizon Europe. Sinead Reardon within the Royal Irish Academy, and Avril, who's here with us today as well, within Health Research Charities Ireland. We're joined by Dorothy Stewart and Alice Vimer within the EPA, and they've tied us in with their educational initiatives with Lisa Johnson and Erin. I'd like to say thank you to Colin Lowry within the National Forum, who's been just wonderful in terms of getting the course materials up online, Anna Cody within the HRB, and then Dara O'Neill, Lisa Higgins, and Kathy Foley within SFI. And they have key roles in terms of project advisory group and ensuring that the resources are updated and fit for purpose in terms of this course. So what is the opportunity? Well, it's a virtual online course over 6 weeks, which requires 30 learner hours. So the course itself will run between March 21st and the 6th of May. It will require 4 hours per week from the learner. So 1.5 hours, which is self-paced. That's where learners will have access to presentations, publications, case studies, and templates. That will be included within that week would be a 1 hour peer-to-peer learning. And this is really around customizing and localizing the knowledge to improve your facilitation skills and to build your network, because we anticipate that the 30 learners in this course will bring a tremendous amount of knowledge, and it provides you with an opportunity to meet these peers and to join together to co-host your own workshops post this educational opportunity. Each week on a Friday, we'll have a live 1.5 hour webinar, and this workshop is really around bringing panelists together. So leaders in engaged research, those change makers, so that we can ask them questions, investigate their lessons learned, and then again, begin to fold in those learnings to your local capacity building projects. In week 6, we're very fortunate to have Michael Foley lead us in a one-day course, which will advance good practices in facilitation. So the reality is you're not only learning the content, and have access to the tools and resources, but the goal really is that the 30 learners who take part in this course improve their facilitation skills and build confidence. I've already mentioned a lot of people who've involved in the development of this, and I really do want to just point out that our project advisory group also includes representation from across the universities, but we also, through those case studies, have beautiful examples of researchers working with policymakers, industry partners, community service organizations, schools, to look at and address societal challenges. So within both the project advisory group and within the weekly case studies, we're bringing in a broad range of parties, including early career researchers, PhD students, all the way up to principal investigators who've been leading these efforts in order to really focus on what works and provide the supports that are required. So those are just a smattering of some of the logos of folks who've been involved, but I would like to just say a quick thank you to Professor Maura Adshed and Thilo Kroll, who are the national conveners for the Campus Engage Working Group, Martin Galvin at UCC, Michael Foley at TCD, Sinead McGilloway at Maynooth University, Catherine Bates at TU Dublin, Anne Lyons at NUI Galway, Geraldine Canny at Waterford Institute of Technology, and Padraig Murphy at DCU, who have also stepped up and provided guidance through the project advisory group. So in terms of this course, what can you expect over the 6 weeks? Well, they're exciting topics, and they really do respond to the comments and the questions that had come up through the original consultation of phase 1, which was the report that Kate mentioned, but they've also evolved through a series of how-to guidance that were also commissioned by Campus Engage. So in week 1, we'll focus in on engaged research and innovation for societal impact. In week 2, we'll look at innovative approaches to realizing research impact. In week 3, we're going to focus in on methodologies for engaging diverse stakeholders. And then in week 4, focusing on how we mobilize research into public policy and practice. Week 5 is looking at monitoring and evaluating research outcomes to better understand our impact. And then week 6, as I said, is that facilitator training. Now, across the 6 weeks, each of the triad, the peer-to-peer learning, also embeds facilitator training. So it's not just an add-on, it's fundamental to the course. You receive the materials and you learn how to utilize them. And this is why, because who are we trying to attract into this course? Well, it will be open to 30 attendees. It's a free course, in case that has come up in one of the questions. There's no cost to learners, but you have to be willing to commit to 4 hours per week between March 21st and May 6th. And you must be available between 1 and 2:30 each Friday, aside from Good Friday, for the virtual workshop. Who should take this course? Well, if it's in your remit to lead engaged research efforts, to build capacity for engaged research efforts, or to support researchers in delivering engaged research efforts, this course might be for you. But you must recognize that in order to commit to the course, you must also commit to co-hosting and evaluating one Campus Engage workshop by April 2023, because the goal ultimately of this course is to build capacity and embed local supports for engaged research. Once you have completed the course and you have the badging and co-delivered one Campus Engage workshop, you are then a Campus Engage facilitator. So you can obviously provide training within your own institution, but you can also be tapped to provide training island-wide. So if you're excited by the opportunity, and I truly hope you are, the application process is open right now. And I'll ask Michael to put the link to that into the chat feature so everyone can see it. But we'll be accepting applications between the 24th of January and the 9th of February. And all applicants will be notified by February 14th. So I'm going to pass it back to Kate, and just really looking forward to the opportunity to work and continue to work on this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. That was a great introduction to the ambition here really is to rapidly scale the number of courses delivered, or the number of workshops delivered, and the core capacity and competency of our colleagues across departments, institutions, universities, ITs. So kind of in it together attitude for Ireland. I'm going to move on now to the panel questions and answers. So we're really happy, as mentioned, to have Avril, Gareth and Sarah here to answer some of the Q&As. So I'm going to go to Avril first. What we did is we harvested some questions at the registration point. So thanks to those who popped in a few questions, and hopefully we'll get these covered in the next 10, 20 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. So turning to Avril Kennan first, who coordinates a lot of the work across the charitable organisations that do incredible research as part of the role and the remit of these organisations to address issues in health research. So Avril, can we ask you here today, what change would you hope to see or would you like to see on the ground, say in 12 months time or beyond, from your perspective?
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, I have so many hopes for 12 months time, and I think this course is a big part of that. Actually, I think it's fantastic what you're doing. I think it's pitched so perfectly, and there's so much potential from it. I think it's coming at a time when we're seeing, over the last few years, we've been seeing really great change in engaged research. So the barriers of what happens in university or in research institutions and what happens in wider society are starting to melt away, and therefore we're getting these really fruitful collaborations that make research so much stronger and can help to solve the real world issues that we're all facing. I think COVID has really drawn attention to the value of research, actually. In my world, so my world is in the space of health research, and what we see is organizations like the Alzheimer's Society, Fighting Blindness, Breakthrough Cancer Research, Deborah Ireland. So many of these wonderful organizations are driving forward research themselves based on the deep knowledge they have of their patient communities. But also they're acting as a linchpin really between the research community and those same patients and parents and carers, so that they can come together to do better research. to give you a very real example of what that can look like, I used to work for Deborah Ireland. And when I was there, we were very focused on driving forward research. And over time, we got better at asking the patients and their families what they wanted from research. We were very, very focused on pain management. When we asked the patients themselves, they said, yes, that's really important. This is, Deborah supports people who live with this very difficult, rare skin condition called EB. Sometimes they call the kids the butterfly children. So you may have heard of that. They said, yes, the pain management is really important, but actually itch is just a big a factor for us. Itch is what keeps us awake at night and what causes more damage to the skin. And so then we changed our strategy to see if we could drive forward more research into itch. And that's the kind of real world thing that we're talking about here. So lots to be gained, but of course it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. And there's a lot of understandable fear and frustration when it comes to engaged research, I think, and it can all be managed, but it can only be managed if we truly understand perspectives, everybody's perspective, and if we build relationships. And I think, so my hope for 12 months time and beyond is that this course will put out 30 people into the world who have those skills, who understand why they need them, and who have the skills to understand perspectives and to build relationships so that together we can tackle the barriers that remain. Thanks, Kate.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Avril. And it's always so important to hear kind of real life on the ground case studies. So thanks for that. I'm going to turn to Garrett next. Garrett, would you mind describing to us a little bit how we can relate this training opportunity into some of the quite radical changes that we now see in Horizon Europe vis-a-vis Horizon 2020? Thanks.
Okay, so Avril's very eloquently there talked about, the reason behind this. I'm going to be a little bit more mercenary, which is how do we draw down far more European funding than we're already doing, just to put that context on it. And obviously, look, we will have an ambition to do even more in Horizon Europe than we've done in Horizon 2020. And we're going into the second calendar year. We're 6 months into the program. We're starting to see the missions for Horizon Europe really emerge in a more solidified way beyond the original plans. And I suppose if we go back to where they came from, it's the Mariana Mazzucato philosophy of missions. So I suppose the one that's always dragged out is the man on the moon concept, or person on the moon, as we should say now, for more accurate. But it's how you bring everything to bear within your system and your society to achieve something. And yes, we've had global challenges in previous framework programs, but the mission theory is now underpinning the whole of Horizon Europe. And in doing that, they're trying to bring in every profile of stakeholder. So yes, it was nice to have diversity in your consortia in the past. Now it's required. And one of the things we have to do collectively as a system is develop out that philosophy to ensure it's ingrained in everything we do. And this is why I'm really excited about this program. Not just because it's a nice to have, but because I think it's actually a central platform of what we need to do to achieve what we need to achieve. What I'd also love to see in terms of a year's time, I want to see diversity on the program. I want to see HEIs on the program from all of our HEI sector, be they ITs, TUs or IUA members. And we want to make sure we're spreading this mission throughout our system. But we also need to look at the opportunity. I mean, if we look at the missions themselves, they're not short-term endeavors. Beating cancer, smart cities, soil, repairing our oceans. These are issues which involve everyone. And if you're going to go in there to compete for a research or innovation project without the voice of the citizen in there, your project is null and void to an extent. And I suppose coming from if I put my traditional Enterprise Ireland hat on, when we're investing in companies, we're asking them, where's the voice of the customer in your plan? Where's the voice of the final recipient? Now what we're seeing is European research catching up on that commercial philosophy. And I can't underestimate the importance of this. And I've had a lot of conversations with, I know a lot of people on this call over my time in this role. And I see Emma Mert is there from the wheel, and they've been looking at how so much more can be done here. It is more difficult for CSO organizations. I totally accept that. I'm hoping we'll see something in the strategy coming from the department, which brings people more in. But if we think of the system as we have it at the moment, please make sure you're engaging with researchers in the HEIs in the area you're interested in. And it's not, no disrespect in any way to Avril, because we always focus on the health area. It goes beyond that to such an extent. So, the climate change Green Deal philosophy that's underpinning nearly everything we do in Horizon Europe involves everybody. The new Bauhaus program is about how we reimagine our public spaces. They've a program they're thinking about doing, which is involving children in what the aspect is going to be there and what they want to see in the future. Now, I sound in conclusion very rosy. This is a difficult and challenging journey. And in setting up the missions for Horizon Europe, we've seen that. So there's been a huge amount of citizen engagement. Have we seen sufficient translation of the outputs of that into the mission programs? I'll reserve judgment on that for a period of time. But the one thing we do know as Ireland and Team Ireland, what we need to do is get a lot better at this. And I think this program is a really good way of accelerating that journey for all the areas of our research and innovation mandate, not just those we may have traditionally engaged the CSO sector in. So I hope that gives you a clearer answer.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Gareth. That was really a thorough response. And I mean, it's encouraging to understand that and to know that you have such a deep insight and empathy with the challenges that exist as well. And okay, so I'm going to move on. We have another question here. Sarah Bowman, you might respond to this. So do the panel have suggestions on best practice to track, acknowledge and reward engagement?
Great. Kate, my internet's a bit unstable, so hopefully everyone can hear me. And the question was around, are there good examples of how we might track engagement and really understand, acknowledge and reward engagement? And I really piggyback onto what Garrett and Avril have said, which is first off, our funders in many ways have been driving the emphasis on engaged research because as Garrett and Avril have eloquently noted, it's integral to our funding landscape. However, I come from a background in the built environment, public engagement. So how does the built environment impact health and well-being? And having worked with 1,200 communities around the world, I can say, you have to have a healthy policy landscape. You need to build capacity for the change you seek through educational programming and upskilling initiatives. And then you need healthy demonstration projects to learn from. So, the reality is, when we look at the San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment, there is some beautiful guidance in there from 2012, and many of our funders have signed it. Unfortunately, many of our higher education institutions have not. But what we're really looking at is a broader understanding of what it means to be a researcher. So yes, you are responsible for the generation of knowledge through a collaborative and rich ecosystem, which is aimed at addressing a challenge. Okay, and you need to be asking the question, for whom is this relevant and how are those individuals engaged and involved? But secondarily, you're asked more and more in terms of these DORA compliant narratives. How are you supporting society and economy? How are you developing individuals and advancing partnerships and collaborations? How are you ultimately improving the research ecosystem you're a part of? And to Garrett's point, industry has a lot to teach us in this space about listening to the beneficiaries of research and also making sure that firsthand testimonials are included. I will say we have a lot of work to do. And unfortunately, the awards and the supports are a very mixed bag. While you have lovely initiatives through the Irish Research Council and Health Research Board, such as the PPI Ignite Network, we really do not see the proper supports in terms of community service organizations or non-governmental organizations, in terms of procurement, in terms of bringing in collaborators earlier on to work on ideation and all the way through knowledge mobilization. So I would say that, yes, we have some good examples that we're going to showcase through the 6 weeks, but ultimately there's a lot of work to be done. And what we're hopeful that this course is going to start to embed good practice so that some of our shoddier practices, which really are exploiting many of our external partners, stop. And that Ireland becomes known as a country that is sincere about engaged research and building a healthy, diverse, inclusive research ecosystem, making a real difference in the world. So I can only speak to within the higher education sector, my own experiences, but Avril and Garrett have beautifully provided some perspective external to that.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Sarah, for that contribution. I think it's really important, to see an interdepartmental approach to the implementation of the new research innovation strategy. I think it would really help at a strategic systems change level. So there's a few questions here I'm just going to turn to quickly. Sarah, you might be up again next. They're in the want to go between pre-submitted and what's live here. So Sylvia, thanks for posting this. How will you select applicants? I imagine you'll have far more applicants than places. Also, will you limit places per one per organisation? And on the back of that, there's a great question from Alison, is a little bit more detail on the workshops. And what would you would expect applicants to host? So 2 kind of quick responses to those, Sarah.
Yeah. So absolutely, and Emma also had a question around whether this is just open for researchers. Listen, what we've said is if your remit is to lead engaged research, to support engaged research or advanced engaged research, regardless of whether you're sitting within a higher education institution or not, we recognize that you are valuable to the research ecosystem, and we would encourage you to apply for this course. The goal is that we do have representation, as Garrett mentioned, from across our higher education institutions and our Institute of Technologies and Technical Universities, as well as for external partners. We know we only have 30 spots available. So really we're asking universities, higher education institutions, organizations to really clearly look at who do you think is your best bet in terms of building capacity for engaged research, who can train the trainers, who can showcase the suite of opportunities, hopefully across disciplines. In terms of the workshops, what we're going to ask learners to do is to identify the capacity building opportunity that you need locally. So for instance, I was talking with Aoife Dean, who's in UCC Marai Centre last week, and we were talking about maybe a focus on how do you engage people who are skeptical about science. Maybe that's the sort of capacity building effort that needs to happen in terms of engaged research. So what we're looking to do is to provide you with a suite of tools and resources, a network of partners who can help you advance the training and capacity building based on your specific issue. So I would just say, I hope that answers the question. In terms of the selection, we have a project advisory group, and a subset of those will form the applicant review committee, and they will make the decision. So we have our first project advisory group on Wednesday, the 26th, in terms of advancing the next round of materials and application procedures, but you can count that there will be a panel decision in terms of how those applicants are reviewed.
Sarah, I hope that answers some of those questions. Also, we're all up for answering questions via email, which Joe will recap at the end. I think we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 quick final questions. I might answer this, which is question 4. How can we properly engage a temporary academic staff as we keep moving from job to job and losing important networks? I think this is the question of the day. I mean, it is on so many different levels, it is very hard for academic staff to operate in the current ecosystem. And what we pitch and promote in terms of the entire engaged research agenda is what you are doing as a researcher, and vice versa, what you are doing as an employee of a department or a departmental agency, a civic civil society organization, a private industry, is you are learning, you're building your social capital, you're building your network of individuals in your space or impacted or stakeholders in your particular area of interest. So this gives opportunity potentially for you to transition out of this vicious cycle, I would suggest, of temporary contracts and into very fulfilling career opportunities in extraordinarily progressive research-focused organizations and agencies. And as Garrett very forthrightly pointed out to me, the process of engaged research and all of that, it really builds on your CV and your competitiveness as an individual, competitiveness and all those important attributes that you bring to the job market. So, we'd be big pushers of that agenda as well, and this is an opportunity for researchers stuck in this cycle. Couple of other questions there. I'm just gonna, I know we're coming up to the final minute here. I'll go into sorry if you don't bear with me. So final question here. How long does the panel see the paywall publishing in relation? How do you see, Sarah, you might answer this. How does the panel see paywall publishing in relation to engaged research? It's kind of a technical question that relates to all sorts of issues in terms of promotion awards. Yeah, Sarah, do you know?
It's a complex issue, and it's not an answer that I'm going to give satisfactorily in 30 seconds. What I will say is open access and engaged research go hand in hand, and we really do want to be advancing open access publications in a diversity of outputs that are relevant to the stakeholders we're hoping to engage and involve. So what we're seeing more and more is a diversity of outputs. The challenge is in some of our disciplines, and we look especially across Faculty of Health Science, or sorry, Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, what we tend to see are things like, book publications, which, we do want to still be encouraging, right? So there is space for open access and there is space for sort of paid publications, but more and more, I think we really do need to be looking at the, the opportunities for us to ensure that we are not hiding research behind paywalls and making it inaccessible and further, really exacaring disparities in terms of access to information.
Yeah,
but
access to data as well. Yeah, for meta-analysis, the whole open access agenda, which is deeply connected into the European research and innovation agenda also. So I'd like to give Garrett and Avril the last word, if that's okay, before we pass back to Joe. Avril, have you any kind of final thoughts or contribution to the session today?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I suppose I would just say that both for the people who take part in the course, but also the people here that don't. So if you're here, you're willing, you're ready. I suppose think about the needs of the universities. And of course, that's your job as Campus Engage. And that's your job if you're in a university. But if we really want to make this work, also think about the needs of charities, community organizations, individual members of the public, and how we enable them to be true partners. So they're coming to it from outside the system, maybe not knowing the language of the research, maybe not even knowing how to find the meeting room, and almost definitely with less money, less funding. So think about those as we go forward as well. And well done again, and the best of luck to everybody who does take part.
Thanks, Kate. I think there are two points for me. One, I see many research office colleagues on the call, and I think your point earlier about who they nominate to go forward as part of this process. So pick the multiplier. Who is going to bring this back to your organization and ensure it's going to be promulgated across all departments within your HEI? That's absolutely critical. The second piece is just sometimes with the language we talk about, recognizing, etc. And it's as if that can be read as if this agenda is secondary. It isn't. What I'd like to see is a sense of entitlement coming from this sector. You are as entitled to participate within the European and national research systems. You are as important to that participation and to achieving what we want to achieve. So a little less sitting back and a little more sense of entitlement that your place at the table is as important as anyone else's. And that would be the most important message I'd like to leave today.
Brilliant. Thank you, Garrett. And thanks to each of the panel members. Really grateful for your insights, for your just working with you on and off on this, and your participation in the advisory group, and your brilliant insights that you're bringing to the table. We're really grateful, because that is really going to make this work. Thanks to Michael Foley, as always. He's a pal and a colleague and a great leader in this space. So yeah, thanks, Michael. Back to Joe, and I'll let you close out. And Joe's going to talk a little bit, mention our Changemakers program, which is happening.
And thanks very much, everybody. So I'll let you get back to your lunch. I'm very conscious we're intruding on your lunchtime. So just a couple of tidying up points. If you have any questions, the Campus Engage, Campus Engage will be putting a frequently asked question note up on their website, and also the email info@campusengage.ie. If you have a comment you want to send in or a query that wasn't answered today, please feel free to send in an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Before finishing up, just as Kate mentioned there, I want to remind you that Changemakers, that really brilliant RTE program, is on tonight at 8:30 on RTE1, but you can also access it on the RTE player. So that's well worth a watch, and to watch some of the back issues as well. To thank everybody, thank you all for joining us today, but especially thank our colleagues in the panel, to Avril and Garrett especially, and Sarah for their great contributions today, as Kate has noted. Also want to thank Kate Wood who is working away in the background, making sure the sessions are recorded and doing all of that stuff, so keeping us on time. So thanks very much, Kate, and thanks Michael as well for his great work. So that's it for today. Now the exciting opportunity is there. Spread the word about it, and also watch this space. Even if you can't get involved in this course, watch the space. And I think we're going to see interesting, exciting things happening. So thanks again to everybody. Thank you all, and goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks all.